Okay, this is your very short video on percent yield. Um, what a percent yield is based on two pieces of data. One is your theoretical yield, which you can get through stoichiometry, and the other is what you get, what kind of yield do you get at an actual experiment. So, for example, let's say I had um, sodium metal plus chlorine gas forms um, sodium chloride, right? Two, two. Now, let's say if I did this problem, I want to find out how much sodium chloride I can make if I was to actually, in a lab, mix some chlorine gas and some sodium metal. So if I have a certain mass of sodium, and say the sodium is the limiting reactant, from the limiting reactant, I should be able to get the theoretical yield. And let's just go ahead and throw that out there and say that the theoretical yield of sodium chloride is 22.3 grams of sodium chloride. This is, right here, the, the max I could possibly make if my measurements are accurate. So my theoretical yield is 22.3 grams of sodium chloride. But let's go ahead and say that I did the experiment and I used the amount of sodium chloride that I said I was going to use, and I had excess chlorine gas, and I made sodium chloride, but I only made, let's say, 12.6 grams of sodium chloride. Okay? So the 22.3 grams of sodium chloride was how much I could make, it's possible to make, but what I actually made was 12.6 grams. Now, I say the word actual because this is what we call the actual yield, right? So we'll go A, Y. So we have a theoretical yield, and now we have what we call an actual yield. An actual yield is based on an experiment. It's based on data from an experiment. Okay? So what you're going to do to determine a percent yield, I'm sure you guys can figure this out, is I'm going to take the actual yield, and I'm going to take the theoretical yield. I'm going to divide them, and then I'm going to multiply by 100, right? And this will give me my percent yield. So if my actual yield was 12.6 grams of sodium chloride, and my theoretical yield was 22.3 grams of sodium chloride, I'm going to go ahead and divide those and then multiply by 100. And I'm going to get 56.5%. Okay? So, the purpose of a percent yield will actually kind of lead to, obviously, discussion, but it could lead to determining if your experiment was necessarily very effective. Because if you're not getting if you're not getting a very high percent yield, then maybe something went wrong in the experiment. Okay? So, I mean, that's how you can interpret a percent yield problem or percent yield data. So it's really simple. You take the actual yield, which is what you get from a lab experiment, and you take theoretical yield, which you get from stoichiometry. You divide it, you go by, multiply by 100, and you'll get the percent yield. And that's it. Okay? Pretty straightforward.